We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast on this Thursday morning, 10 o'clock Central currently, 11 o'clock Central Eastern. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today on the show, we're going to go over a little bit Jaemyn Brakefield picking Ole Miss to transfer from Duke. The former five-star player picked Ole Miss, and that should have some repercussions moving forward. We're also going to talk a little bit about Donnie Kessinger's number getting retired tonight. Kind of an all-time great of Ole Miss, getting his number retired. And I think John Rice Plumlee, when he took the numbers that he had or something, there was no retirees going, and now 10 has been retired in football, and I think 11 has been retired in baseball or something like that. So something to stick around for and look at that. And in the second segment, we're going to do a little preview of the weekend baseball preview that we're going to be releasing at noon today. So Chad Smith coming by talking about the Ole Miss LSU series, 10 minutes of that, and then we'll release the full thing, which was like 22 at noon. So welcome to the POMcast. I am, of course, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for tuning in. And let's see, we'll go over this right here. If you're on Twitter, you can catch us at The Stephen Willis or at The Rebel Walk. You can also catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. You can catch us at YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell, subscribe, do all that stuff. You'll know when we're streaming. And more importantly, you'll know what we're streaming about. And we're also on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We're at Willis Digital Media on YouTube and Twitch. Willis Digital Media, YouTube and Twitch. All the videos go there. Both Ole Miss and not Ole Miss. We're going to be, whenever they open up annual passes, we're going to be going to Disney and taking video and kind of doing an everyman look at that. We're going to be doing review type shows. It's going to be a good bit of fun. So stick around for that. That is kind of the next step of this thing as we are growing up. And this weekend on Saturday we'll have an instant reaction for baseball in the LSU series, and we'll have an instant reaction for the Grove Bowl with Jake Evans from the flagship football show. We're going to talk a little bit about the game. He's going to be there. I'm going to catch it on television, watching it in the palatial Central Florida studios, probably while I'm doing the instant reaction to baseball, if we're going to be honest. But we'll see how that works out as well. Before we get started, I want to tell you about the Vault Society. What's the Vault Society? Well, right now, the big push at the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation is for the Vault Society support, which is a 5-year commitment of support. Membership starts at $5,000 a year, and there's a benefit chart on the site. We'll tell you the site in just a second. All gifts to the Ole Miss between now and June 30th will receive triple points. 2 types of points available. Red points are non-deductible and go towards priority seating. Blue points are 90% tax deductible and go towards parking and non-home ticketed games, postseason bowl games, neutral site, like the Ole Miss versus LSU or Louisville game in the Georgia Dome to start off next season. That would be a neutral site game, so that's how you can affect your ability to purchase tickets within the Ole Miss section there. So it's the Vault Society. You can check it out at give2athletics.com. Again, that is give2athletics.com. Once again, I am Stephen Willis. Thank you very much. And Ole Miss got Jaemyn Brakefield to commit to them from Duke. He's transferring away. And two things. First of all, this is the third top 50 player that is committed to be a part of next year's roster. I don't think Ole Miss has ever had 3 top 50 players on their roster in Ole Miss men's basketball at one time. I'm not even going to look that up and research it. I just don't think it's happened. We've recruited a certain way and we've done things a certain way for so long. It's a weird feeling to have that much elite talent on the court at the same time. And those 3 would be Matthew Morrell, Deshaun Ruffin, and Jaemyn Brakefield. So we're going into next season with the potential to put 3 top 50 players on the court at one time. Now we need an outside shooter. We need players like Grant Slatton and Eric Vanderheiden to come through with the outside shooting. They did that really well. Jaemyn Brakefield is a 3-point shooter. So he'll go out and take threes from time to time. That'll decompress the lane. We have the rim protection of Nasir Brooks. It's going to be a very interesting prospect for Ole Miss basketball moving forward of how this will look. Now, all the rumors out there is that Ole Miss wants to play at a more up-tempo pace next year. Well, that is great. It seems like these guys fit that bill. I don't know, about Jarkel running point. If you put him at the 2, all of a sudden you get a little smaller. But there might be a situation where you see Jarkel at the 2 and Deshaun Ruffin playing the point guard. Matthew Morrell may be at the swing player, spelling Luis Rodriguez. Luis Rodriguez moving to the 4 or whatever, and Jaemyn Brakefield at the 5. But it'll be interesting to see. And this is what excites me about the new rules about transfer and the transfer portal. Now, all these players that we miss on, for whatever reason, we'll say lack of recruiting infrastructure or anything like that, now you get a second grab at the apple. You have, once they sign with a school, let's just say Jaemyn Brakefield went to Duke. Well, all of a sudden, you've got to keep him happy for that full year. If he's not happy, he can transfer away. It's a one-time transfer. So if he were to leave Ole Miss, he would have to sit out or do whatever he has to do. Because I imagine so with the one-time transfer, the waivers are going to go way down. That's just the way that happens. It's going to be all waivers at the beginning, no waivers for the second time. So he's kind of here. We got him. We won the war. We lost the battle on that signing day to Duke, but we ended up winning the war, and we have him on campus for 2 or 3 years, helping out our program. And we don't necessarily have to worry about him leaving. Now, players like Deshaun Ruffin or Matthew Morrell, yes, you have to worry about that going because they're still within that window. But you've seen teams using the transfer portal to build their roster and get ready to make a big run. I mean, Arkansas made the Elite 8 with basically a transfer portal roster. So we'll see how this turns out. Now, in a situation without COVID, I think they'll gel together quicker and it'll be a better situation. You'll see players not hurt as much. Like players like Matthew Morrell that came in as a true freshman. Last year really impeded them in the beginning because they couldn't get on the court and do what they wanted to do, and everything was a little bit different. There was a little bit of adaptation, and it's just a hard slog. And towards the end of the year, you could see him coming on, and you saw the gifts, and you saw the athleticism. But now in a situation without COVID, Now, in a situation where you don't have to worry about COVID and you can have a normal off season, it's going to be interesting to look at. I think I need to check the rules about the off-season basketball tournament, but this maybe next summer, not this summer, next summer, you can go on an international basketball thing, and they probably wouldn't do it this year anyway because of COVID, because travel advisories are going across 80% of the world at this point. And we're doing a fantastic job of vaccinating people, so that's cool to see. It's cool to see. It's nice to see us go from being a walking calamity 3 months ago to now leading the world, and countries with a head start on us are just trying to stay even because our infrastructure is so good. So anything we want to do, we can accomplish. Don't let people tell you any different. Anything we want to do, we can accomplish. We just have to put our mind to it. So. Jaemyn Brakefield did commit to Ole Miss basketball from Duke. He's a 4. He can do a little pick and pop. I'm kind of worried about him on the defensive end, but I think Kermit will get him where he needs to be. But on the offensive end, he has a lot of tools. Now, he's not really – you don't look at him when he plays and say, oh, okay, he can do this and this really well. No, he just does everything well. There's nothing that really stands out. You worry a little bit about the defense, but you can see that will come about, and with Kermit Davis, that'll help him out greatly. Because you don't get to the next level without playing defense. Period. That's the easiest way to tell what's going on. So Jaemyn Brakefield, Deshaun Ruffin, and Matthew Morrell. Top 50 players of Ole Miss basketball are going to see the floor next year. So I'm excited about that. We talked earlier, Donnie Kessinger getting his number retired tonight for Ole Miss baseball. I think it was number 11. I may be having a brain surgery moment, so bear with me with that one. But if I'm not true, let me know below. Good player, great athlete. He's done a bunch of stuff. He scored 40 points in a basketball game in the SEC. He's a great athlete. Played in the majors for several years. I think he's a Cubs legend. I mean, his jersey being retired is warranted. And something that'll be really cool to see. Now, we have the jersey retirement tonight against LSU. And then on Saturday, we have Lane Kiffin throwing out the first pitch, which, no pressure, coach. You have to get it over the plate, throw a strike. We're all going to be watching you. No, I'm just kidding. Have fun. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to throw it into the backstop, if you want to hit the ball, do whatever you need to do. We're going to take a break in just a second, and when we come back, we're going to come back with Chad Smith. We'll probably give you a couple minutes back today because we had a couple of longer shows this week. This one will be less than 30 minutes. Tomorrow will probably be less than 30 minutes. But that is the plan. But all of our, however you're watching this now, it's also going to be available on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. Those are the places where you can listen to the Weekend Baseball Preview with Chad Smith as well. So we'll have that. Right now we're going to take a short break, but stick around for that, and we will do a little bit more afterwards. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to the POMcast, segment number 2. In just a second, we're going to go to our preview of the preview. Maybe it's the best way to put it. I don't know how to put it exactly, but it's 10 minutes of the preview that we filmed this morning with Chad Smith. We're going to do the whole thing at noon, but until then, 10 minutes we'll have to do. And you'll notice on there, my interview style is very much interjecting. It's very much towards the guest, and whatever needs to be asked as quickly as possible to get to the expert to let them talk about it. That's the way we do, and that is one of the benefits of not really having an ego throughout this whole thing. It's not really wanting to hear my own voice. But that's the way we do that. Chad Smith, Chris Muller, everything. I mean, all those shows come out pretty similarly. And that is because it's not about me, it's about those guys. And they do a fantastic job. I do want to tell you about the Rebel Walk. The Rebel Walk is the free, that's what I said, free avenue for you to follow Ole Miss sports, rebelwalk.com. It provides a subscriber level experience, and it doesn't cost any money. All it costs you is a little bit of time, and you can follow Ole Miss sports and do all the stuff you want to do. It's important in this doom scrolling age that we live in that you can have fun doing stuff and following what you really enjoy. Well, you can there. The rebelwalk.com, Evelyn and the team do a fantastic job, including a lot of those guys like Chad Smith calling in to this show, helping us out as well. So catch them at the rebelwalk.com for all that interesting, factual information. So we are going to go to Chad Smith in just a second. It was the whole show's fantastic. This is just a piece of it, 10 minutes or so, where we get into a little bit of big picture stuff, but all the stuff about the weekend pictures and all the breakdowns of that will be at the beginning and be released with the actual video. You can catch it on the audio and all the podcast things, and you can catch it at all the avenues that you can watch it, the POMcast normally. So it's pretty good, and I definitely recommend you listen to it. Until then, do whatever you need to do. Have fun. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, and work on enjoying it the best way you can. Until then, here's Chad Smith talking about the game, the series this weekend. Hotty toddy.
Debating, how do they do it? They don't do so much debating. They pretty much make it very vocal that they want Maneri gone.
Yeah, the fall of LSU baseball has been quite interesting to see. Just into mediocrity, and then now this year just bottoming out a little bit. Now, if we look at the hitting and the Ole Miss lineup, what are you looking for this weekend? What should we keep our eye on?
All right, so there was one main thing that I saw last week out of our lineup that we need to improve on dramatically, and that is the beginning, the top of the lineup card. We didn't have as much, and I'm not going to say we didn't have any production out of these guys because they are relied upon very heavily, but we didn't see as much progress or as much production out of Gonzo. We didn't see it out of Chatty, and we didn't see it out of KG. Kevin Graham, we need Kevin Graham to come in there, and while we can't count on him to produce the Tim Elko numbers that Tim Elko was producing before we went out with this injury, we do need to see it out of those three batters. Those three batters set the tone for the whole game, and They just didn't provide the most or their best games. Let's put it that way. At the same time, let me just say this: Mississippi State's bullpen and their pitchers pitched them better than any other part of the lineup. From the middle down. So I want to see better games, a better approach. I also want to see Chatty go up to the plate and not swing for the fences. He has the ability to take that ball and just dump it over into the gaps, dump it over for singles, get on base, and that's what we need him to do, especially in that two spot that he was hitting on Sunday.
Okay, and a little bit of a question. This is kind of a curiosity thing. I talked to Chris Muller after the Mississippi State game. When you see teams doing that pronounced a shift inside of two strikes, why don't teams bunt?
Well, so first of all, you've got to be a bunting team. You've got to be able to, you've got to show that you can bunt quite a bit, and you can do it successfully in several different situations. A lot of coaches, and I believe Coach Mike is one of them, likes to hit through the shift. And once he sees that shift on, hit the ball in the opposite field and get on base at that point. You get the base on if you get the hit to the opposite field going the opposite way of the shift, then you could be looking at a double, possibly a triple, depending on who is shifting. I'm not a proponent of the shift. It works occasionally to very to batters that don't really have another hit, if you will, or another tendency. If they always hit up the middle, or they always hit to the left side, I can see where it could be an advantage, especially if they cannot pull that pitch or push that pitch the other way.
Yeah, it just scared. It was just a weird thing because the ball was being pitched outside, which tells me opposite field hit to a left-handed batter or to a right-handed batter, but the shift was going straight pull, and I was like, it's almost counterintuitive.
Right.
Go ahead.
It's definitely a difficult thing to do, and especially if you're up there, your approach. Also, we're not playing like the majors. These players don't play like 152 games, I believe it is, like the majors does. Major players do. So these guys get in a habit, get in a flow of doing the style of hitting they do best. And so for them to change it up just because of a shift does not actually help in a lot of situations.
Okay, that's good to know. I've been trying to ask that question for about a week now, and this is the best answer I've gotten. Let's look at LSU's batting lineup. Who should we be looking out for over the course of the weekend? Who's going to be dangerous?
Well, there are a number of players that are dangerous on LSU. They've got an outfielder, and my system just went down on the lineup for LSU. But I will say that the top of their lineup is their most brutal. The top three hitters, the top three batters that they'll have are the most difficult that they'll have. Once you get down past the cleanup, you can look at the lower half of the lineup is not near as difficult, and you can make a few more mistakes. Gunner and Doug and Drew themselves, along with the guys out of the bullpen, we need to concentrate on locking those first three batters down at any time when they come up in the ball game.
Okay. And matchup wise, is LSU's lineup a good fit or a bad fit for our starting pitching?
Sure. So compared to especially what we've played so far, LSU is more like the Alabama. Uh, they're more the team like Alabama. They don't have as much power. They will hit the long ball occasionally, but they are more of a dink and dunk type team. Dink it into the outfield, dump it into the gaps, and get your man on base. Add more doubles to the lineup. They're certainly not going to hit you if you're pitching well. They're not going to hit you that well going out of the ballpark. So the advantage definitely goes to Ole Miss in this case. We've also had the experience of playing much more difficult foes than LSU has. And when LSU has played a difficult team like South Carolina, they have not fared well.
Yeah, I think they got swept by South Carolina, did they not?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting, and it's like I said, it's always an interesting thing whenever you describe LSU, the creator of Gorilla Ball, as dink and dunk. It's crazy.
Absolutely. If you think back to, and I grew up, I went to high school actually in about an hour and a half from Baton Rouge, and during the 90s, the only thing you heard about were the home runs coming from Alec Box Stadium. And I mean, they were basically destroying balls. I remember several games watching them with friends, and although I was silently pulling against them, watching those balls just crash over their outfield wall at the old Alec Box. Uh, this is not the team that's going to be doing that now. There's a lot more parity in college baseball, as we see. I mean, look at the LSU or look at the teams now, and you would think that LSU would still be up in the mix or at least in the top three of the West, and they're nowhere close.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this. Like, somebody asked me, is like, why the last couple of years is Mike Bianco more comfortable, almost a calmer demeanor out there? And my theory is that he had a lineup that could play a little bit of gorilla ball, and that's what he was brought up doing.
Sure. And that's true. And if you would talk to Mike, Mike would probably bust a gasket by if you called the type of ball that we play gorilla ball. But that's Mike. I'm not going to speak for him personally, but you're right. He was brought up in the gorilla ball era, and he expects us to hit for power. But we need the all-around hitting, running. We need to play it smart, play the kind of game that Mike has taught us. That way we can move forward and we can win those games and possibly, hopefully, sweep LSU the way we should, especially when we compare the records.
Yeah, if a sweep were to happen this weekend, and I'm not saying that it would, that would put the plus minus for Ole Miss at +3 and would eliminate that Sunday loss versus Arkansas.
That's correct. That's correct. And we're not going to move. We don't expect to move back into the top 8 this week, even with the sweep. It would be nice. We need the sweep. We need to have a good showing against South Carolina next weekend. And of course, we've got several more difficult matchups, 2 on the road and 1 at home versus Vandy. So we've got a chance to get right back in the thick of things. This past weekend was an emotional hit because it's Mississippi State. Ole Miss hates to lose to Mississippi State. But as fans and as players, as this team goes forward, we will put this behind us and carry on. Let's meet them in Hoover. Let's meet them in postseason and take care of business.
All right, Chad Smith talking about all the preview that you need to know about Ole Miss versus LSU. First pitch tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. You'll have a preview. You've heard a preview on the POMcast earlier today. This released around lunchtime. So I hope you have it on the commute into the game, and I hope you enjoyed it. But for Chad Smith, I'm Stephen Willis saying thank you, and of course, hotty toddy.